What's up, everybody? It's Jasmine here. Today we're talking about Trisha Paytas' recent controversy video where she came out as transgender, and there's been a ton of backlash. Like, everybody's talking about it because people are saying that she's trolling, it's clickbait, it's whatever it is. And so when I went to watch her video, I thought that it was going to be really, really awful, like really disgusting. Trisha Paytas is trashing on the LGBTQ plus community, so I was ready for that, but when I watched it, I thought that this is so overblown and ridiculous that people are upset about it. So I would recommend that you watch the video to get, to form your own ideas, because when you hear people talking about it, you're like, oh, this is going to be disgusting, this is going to be gross, this is clickbait, this is whatever. You can't know how it is until you watch it, basically. But what I was really surprised when I watched it, because it all seemed really logical stuff. Like, it wasn't anything shocking. It wasn't like it didn't seem like she was making fun of LGBTQ plus people or anything like that. It seemed like she was having a genuine conversation about how she feels as a person in the world. So what Trisha Paytas talks about is that she feels more like a man than a woman, and she also feels, more specifically, she feels like somebody who is in drag. And when I heard her say that, I thought that was really, really logical, because she is such a big, overblown caricature of a woman, right? And she's in the porn industry, she's a porn star, so basically she's selling the idea of a woman without it being like the reality of a woman. That's how I can understand it, because she's not standing there as just a woman who's like, here I am as a person. She's more like, I am this image of sex and desire that isn't really realistic in real life, you know what I mean? So when she talked about that, I was like, yeah, she is basically somebody who is in drag, somebody who puts on a character. She puts on a show, really, and obviously that's in the porn industry, but I don't think that it necessarily matters which industry it's in. She is putting on this image of a caricature of what a woman really is. And so she also talks about other things. She talks about how when she was growing up, she, was called a man and things like that, and how she hasn't really been comfortable in her own body, and how she doesn't really relate so much to females in general. And that she just feels like she is a gay man who wears drag, and she doesn't want to transition or anything. And I think that what the purpose of this video is for her to talk to her subscribers about how she feels as a person, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And I think that people get upset about the whole trans thing, and there are accounts on YouTube of transgender people who make videos about other transgender people and say that, they're not really trans, they're just faking it. Now, what I think that this video has done, that Trisha Paytas put out, is kind of highlight that toxicity in the transgender community, because I've seen these videos and I've thought to myself, this is really weird, like, what's going on here? Because they're so critical, the videos are, of how other people are exploring their own identity. And that's basically what Trisha Paytas is doing. She's talking about her exploration of her own identity, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Is there something wrong with using the word transgender or saying that she feels like a trans person? I don't really know. Like, it's such a new thing for people to talk about openly that I think that it's really not surprising that people are using these words now to try and explain how they feel. It's like when you feel a sense of loss and hopelessness, you might say that you feel depressed. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You're trying to explain how you feel. And yeah, you're using a term that's used in, clinical psychology and whatever. But you are trying to use words to explain how you feel. How is that wrong? Sure. And so people getting upset, like, well, she's not really trans. Well, what is trans? Like, people they can identify as a male without turning themselves into a male. When I was growing up, we watched movies where a guy who worked in like a metal factory, and he had a wife and he had a kids, and then he realizes that he actually identifies as a woman, and then he transitions to a woman. So like this idea that people have to be ultra feminine as a male before they transition, or they have to be ultra masculine as a female to turn into a male later on, or the idea that you even have to get surgery for these things is, I think, really restrictive, and it's really unfair that people aren't going to let you try and explain how you feel as a person without jumping on you and saying you can't say that, you're being disrespectful, you're making fun of us, and things like that. And I think that it also it's basically gatekeeping. That's how I feel that it is. Because if I was sitting here and I was unsure about who I was as a person, and I was unsure about if I wanted to transition, or if I felt like I was really a female, or if I was really a male, I would then be scared to talk to people about that, because then I'd be worried that, this whole community would jump on me and say, well, you're just a trans-trender or whatever. That's the words that they use. They use words like trans-trender to describe people who they think aren't actually transgender. They're just doing it to get attention. So honestly, I feel like the whole backlash against it is unnecessary, and I think that Trisha, I think that she did something that she has always done. She's talked about how she feels as a person, and she talks about her life and her reality, and that's something that she has always done. So people shouldn't really be surprised about that. I also think that people can learn from this. They can learn that what we perceive from people isn't always the reality, and that it's not necessary to judge people. Like, we can take people for their word without calling them a liar and things like that. Because the other thing that I wonder is the people who are basically calling Trisha Paytas a liar, do they then expect people like myself, a person who isn't trans or anything like that, do they expect people like me to go around and judge if other people are transgender or not? Like, if somebody comes up to me and says, I'm trans, am I meant to dissect whether they are trans or not, or am I supposed to take their word for it? And I think that it sets a really concerning precedent if people expect me to go around and judge them and make my own decisions about other people's identity. I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go. So yeah, I hope that Trisha Paytas makes it through this, I guess I'd say, bump in the road, because obviously she's getting a lot of backlash, and I don't think that it's really fair. And I commend her for talking about how she feels, and talking about her sexuality and how, in her identity as a person, because she is somebody that has been really open and she's put herself out there, and that's quite risky, but I think that she gives strength to a lot of people, and I hope that she recognizes that she does give other people strength and hope, and that's more important than listening to people who say otherwise. So yeah, that's it for me today, guys. I do have other videos coming up, for example an Amberlynn Reid video, but I just wanted to get this one out here because I feel like somebody needs to say some words of support for Trisha Paytas. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys all next time. Hey door.